Hey, everybody, it's Steve Van Tassel here for Dynasty Owner, and we've got your Week 3 preview coming up. Week 3 just started last night. We had the Panthers play the Texans, and good news for the Panthers, they won. Bad news, Christian McCaffrey was out for a significant portion of the game, which is not just bad news, but very bad news. But let's put that in the past. Let's move forward. Let's talk about week 3. We've got our week 3 preview, and we're calling it changing of the guard. And part of it actually goes back to the game last night. You know, there was a changing of the guard maybe in Houston Texans for the quarterback. Davis Mills made his first NFL start, and, you know, it's a change. They went from Deshaun Watson, who we know all has issues, to Tyrod Taylor. And much like last year, Tyrod Taylor got hurt. He lasted about a half longer than he did last year. Last year, he lasted a game before he got hurt and replaced by Justin Herbert for the Chargers. This year, he made it a game and a half before he got injured and replaced by Davis Mills in the second half of last week. But week 3 was really Davis Mills' sort of first NFL start. And that's important because it could be, as I'm calling this article and video, changing of the guard. In addition to Mills, we've got, more importantly, probably for fantasy owners and Chicago Bears fans, is the changing of the guard, hopefully for Bears fans, from Justin Fields to Andy Dalton. From Andy Dalton to Justin Fields, big difference. And I think, you know, a lot of Bears fans are kind of upset because, you know, Matt Nagy keeps saying that Andy Dalton's our starting quarterback when healthy. But I remember last year, and actually in the article, I pulled up the quote from Anthony Lynn, who was the Chargers coach last year, saying that don't worry, Tyrod Taylor's their starter once he's back from being injured. 100%, he's our quarterback. That didn't happen. Justin Herbert's their quarterback. Tyrod Taylor's now on injured reserve for the Texans, probably being overtaken by another rookie quarterback. And how does this come into Dynasty Owner? Well, in Dynasty Owner, we have the chase for the ring. And sort of in the top 25, we're looking at maybe a little bit of the changing of the guard this year. Last year, we had a team that was finished in the top 3. Very good team. And this year, they're in a different league. They're playing a team that's ranked number 2 right now. And so that's going to be our matchup of the week. We're going to preview that and tell folks how that's going. And there might be a little change in the guard at the top of the chase of the ring standings. I mean, you know, last year's winners not there. Most of the teams, honestly, that were in last year's top 25 aren't in this year's top 25. So I think in Dynasty Owner, you're going to have a little more changing of the guard every year. It's just hard to maintain a team that's going to stay at the top of the chase of the ring standings year in and year out. But we'll see. We're still new. We haven't had too many years. Maybe there will be a team that does that, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult. So now, without further ado, we are going to have we're going to start our week 3 preview. Okay. So week 3 preview. We're going to do the usual. We're going to talk about guys who should be in your starting lineup this week. And the first thing we're going to do is recap who we had last week. And you might recall last week's starters recommendations were Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback, James Conner at running back, Jarvis Landry at wide receiver, and Jared Cook at tight end. And they were all bad. Very bad. Very bad. Very bad. Roethlisberger was the 23rd best quarterback for the week. And he was the best choice on this list. I mean, that he would have been a low-end bench option for your Dynasty Owner team. Now, I mean, I cut myself a little bit of a break because Jarvis Landry did get hurt very early in that game after 1 reception for 9 yards. So he may have done better if he played the whole game, but Connor did nothing and Cook did nothing. So let's see what happens. Let's see how we go week 3. So we've got week 3 starting recommendations. And the first recommendation is Ryan Tannehill from the Tennessee Titans. Tannehill's the 26th ranked quarterback in Dynasty Owner right now. And he was the 20th quarterback off the board. So clearly, if you got him, you're thinking bench. But I think this week he should be the starter. You know, it's hard to pick quarterbacks here. I mean, you know, you can't have any in the top 12, can't have any highly ranked quarterbacks. I mean, you know, it's not like other places that I see like Matthew Stafford listed as a sleeper. I mean, Matthew Stafford is a sleeper. No, he should be he's a starter. He's in your starting lineup every week. But I think Tennessee has a good matchup this week against the Colts. I think their wide receivers, if they perform as well as wide receivers have the last 2 weeks against the Colts defense, Tannehill is going to be able to throw for a lot of yards and be worthy of being in your starting lineup. The running back who I'm suggesting that you recommend you start this week is James White from the New England Patriots. I know I'm a Patriots homer, sorry. And I know White's technically not eligible because he's the 17th ranked 15th ranked running back in Dynasty Owner right at this point in time. But let's face it, you didn't draft James White or keep him on your team last year to put him in your starting lineup. I did. I had him in my starting lineup last week, and I reaped the benefits of it. And I think it's going to happen again this week. I think Mac Jones is going to throw a lot of short passes. He's going to dump it off to White a lot. I'm not sure if Ramondre Stevenson is going to be back this week. I think he's still in timeout with Bill Belichick. And so I think White's going to get a few rushing attempts. He's going to get he's going to get some receptions. I mean, Dynasty Owner is a PPR, and so that benefits White. And I think he should be fine. And you can put him in your starting lineup this week, or even the flex spot. My wide receiver start this week is Hunter Renfrow from the Las Vegas Raiders. And, it shouldn't really be, he shouldn't be actually a bench option. I mean, he actually is the Raiders' best wide receiver. He's not their best receiver. He's their best wide receiver. So, I mean, and you've got the Raiders, they're going to have to contend with the Dolphins. They have 2 good cornerbacks, and they'll probably be guarding Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards. And so that should leave the middle of the field open for Hunter Renfrow, especially because obviously the Dolphins should be guarding Darren Waller. And I think that's, Renfrow hasn't scored a touchdown in Las Vegas yet. And I think this might be the week for him. And if he does, he'll definitely be somebody who finishes in the top 24 of wide receivers and somebody who should be in your Dynasty Owner starting lineup. And last on the list here is the tight end, and that's Austin Hooper of the Cleveland Browns. Now, I mean, Hooper, last year, everybody thought he was going to be, the Cleveland had picked him up and he was going to perform very highly for them, and he didn't. And now he's down to being, last year he finished as the 21st ranked tight end in Dynasty Owner, and now he's only rostered in less than 40% of Dynasty Owner leagues. But, Cleveland's had some injuries. Jarvis Landry is out now. OBJ's just coming back from being out the first 2 weeks. I'm not sure about how many times they're going to target him or how much he's going to play. So that leaves Austin Hooper is kind of the best receiver on the team. And so if the Browns are going to throw it all against the Bears, it might be a lot to Hooper. So I'd get him in your starting lineup if you're one of the less than 40% of owners who have Hooper on their team. So those are the starting recommendations, guys who you wouldn't think should be starters, but I think should be starters this week. Next, we're going to go to the guys who probably should be on your bench or practice squad, even the practice squad this week, even though they're probably really guys who you drafted very highly or think should be in your starting lineup based on a lot of other factors like past performance. So bench week 2, the bench recap, I suggested Jameis Winston, Josh Jacobs, Corey Davis, and Kyle Pitts to be on your bench. A lot of those guys had good week 1 performances. Some of them were highly drafted, but I thought after week 1, don't start them in week 2, and pretty good. I did pretty good. Jameis Winston, the Saints were awful on offense last week, and he only had 7.4 Dynasty Owner fantasy points behind almost everybody. So that was a good result. Same with Corey Davis. I said Bill Belichick would lock him down, being the best player on the Jets, and they did. 2 receptions, 8 yards, good starting recommendation. Kyle Pitts, that one was bad. He performed pretty well. They threw to him more than they threw to like Russell Gage, which is what I thought would happen. So he scored 12.3 points, and he was a top 10 tight end. And Josh Jacobs, I get an NA for that one. I did it on Friday. I do these on Friday. Later in the day on Friday, the Raiders announced he was out. So can't make the change. It's already been done. So we'll take an NA for that one. So I'm still doing pretty good. The first week I had 4 good results, and I've had 2 more. So 6 out of 7 good, which is pretty good. So who is going to be on the list this week? So who are my week 3 bench recommendations? And the first one is Tom Brady? What? Yes, actually, I did this. I put Tom Brady there. He's the GOAT, and I realize this, but it's week 3, and you know who he plays in week 4? The Patriots at New England. You know who's probably overlooking the team this week? The Rams. Tom Brady. I know, believe it. It's hard to believe that, but it's also hard to believe that he's not itching to play the Patriots and thinking about it right now. And the Rams are a really good defense. They held him to last year. The Rams played the Buccaneers, and Brady only had 16.8 dynasty on fantasy points, and that would be a bench guy for you. I mean, it was his 3rd worst performance of the year, but I think the Rams defense is good, and they can do it to him again. And so I think Brady probably overlooks this game, is looking past it, and doesn't do as well as he should, and is out of the top 12 quarterbacks this week, meaning he should be on your bench. The second player is another surprise. It's Alvin Kamara. And I know these are big names. Why do you keep saying to bench these guys? Well, I'm not going to pick some fringe starter who may be a starter for some people. I mean, I'm going to pick guys who should be in your starting lineup, but this week aren't going to do well enough to be in your starting lineup. And picking Kamara is back to the Corey Davis theory from last week. Bill Belichick defenses are going to take away the best player on the opposition team. And that's Alvin Kamara by a wide margin on the New Orleans Saints. So I just think Belichick's going to lock in on him. They're not going to let him run. They're not going to let Jameis Winston dump the passes off to him. They're going to try to keep Kamara wrapped up as tightly as they can. And last week he only had seven dynasty owner fantasy points. I'm not sure that he's going to do the same this week, as low this week, but I don't think he's going to get double digits, which is basically what you need to kind of be a low end number 2 running back, which means a starter for your dynasty owners. Third is Terry McLaurin from the Washington football team. And McLaurin had a great week last week against the Giants. I mean, he had like 27 points, dynasty owner fantasy points. But this week, they're not playing the Giants, they're playing the Bills. And the Bills have a couple of good corners, and they've done pretty well against really good wide receivers the last couple of weeks. I mean, they played the Steelers, and they've got that trio of Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster. And then the Dolphins last week with Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker. And the Bills have kind of shut those guys all down. I mean, those 5 guys are averaging, I think they were averaging about 10 dynasty owner fantasy points per game between the 5 of them. And nobody's got over, I think Deontay Johnson had 14 and change. So nobody's really broken out against them. I mean, and if you think about it, who else do they need to guard on the football team at wide receiver? I mean, I looked at the stats, and McLaurin has more targets and yards than all of the other wide receivers on that team combined. And I wouldn't be surprised if it stays that way for the entire year. So, I mean, Bill should lock in on McLaurin, make it tough for him. I think he's probably needs a spot on your bench this week. He's not going to produce very well. So, and the last guy is Mark Andrews. And I know he hasn't had a great 2 weeks, and he's ranked the 16th tight end right now. But let's face it, if you drafted Mark Andrews, you didn't draft him to have him sitting on your bench. You drafted him to start him, put him in your starting lineup, because he was probably the 5th or 6th tight end off the board. And I know a lot of that's based on his salary, which is under $1 million. But he's been just a step below the top, kind of the top tight ends the last couple of seasons in Dynasty Owner. But the first couple of weeks, it hasn't been great. And I think this week against the Lions, I think Baltimore is going to run. Baltimore runs the ball a lot, and they're going to just run the ball a lot more this week. And that's probably going to limit the number of targets Andrews gets. And usually Andrews, part of the reason why he's been so effective and so important as a fantasy tight end is because he catches touchdowns. He had 10 in his rookie year of 2019, and he had 7 last year. And this year he's got 0. He probably if he keeps the 0 again, he's probably not going to crack the top 10, 12 tight ends. So that means put him on your bench. So those are the recommendations. Tune in next week. We'll see how they work out. And now we're going to get to the part, hopefully the part that everybody kind of likes. It's different for Dynasty Owner. We do the matchup of the week. You're not seeing this other places. You're not having Matthew Berry or anybody from CBS or Yahoo break down like a fantasy matchup in your league. But here in Dynasty Owner, that's what we do. We focus on our owners and we pick up one matchup of the week. And this week, it's kind of going in the changing of the guard theme in that we've got a team that's a second-ranked team right now in the chase to the ring going up against an owner who had a team who finished in third place last year. Different league. It's a different league, but that owner has kind of street cred here on Dynasty Owner, and is a good owner. And his team this year is pretty good. They're already 2-0. Both teams are actually 2-0. And we're talking about the Road Warriors versus Dynasty Trade School. You also know Dynasty Trade School and Mad Minshew's mustache from last year. And if you listen to or watch the Dynasty Owner podcast, live stream, it's Rudolph Valentine, not Valentino, Rudolph Valentine. Rudolph Valentino is an old actor, in case you don't know. But we look at this, and when I wrote the article, the projections were pretty even. The Road Warriors were expected to barely edge out a victory, but then Thursday Night Football happened, and the Road Warriors have Christian McCaffrey, who got them 6 points. Dynasty Trade School smartly started DJ Moore, and he got them 20.5 points. So now Dynasty Trade School is expected to hold off the Road Warriors and win this game. I still think it's going to be close. It's not going to be another Monday night matchup like our last couple of Dynasty Owner matchups of the week, in that I don't think these guys, unless they make a switch, somebody on their practice squad moves up to the starting lineup or the bench, they're going to be done on Sunday night. So we'll see. Should be a great matchup. Tune in on Tuesday to see who won. And be sure to check out the whole article on dynastyowner.com. Follow me on Twitter, please. My Twitter is SteveVT33. Make sure you read the articles coming from Jay Pounds, at Jay Pounds NFL, Matt the Jerk at Dynasty Jerk on Twitter. Jay's got the Monday night preview article coming up on Monday night. And then Tuesday, he does his free agent auction targets, which is always good for you, because you read that on Tuesday, you'll know who to pick up even when the free agent auction runs on Wednesday morning. And then Matt comes in on Wednesday and has an article on a topic of his choosing. And then he does the Thursday night preview for us to get you started for the week. I'll be back here on Friday for my video, and Tuesday I have the recap article, so you can see who you should have had in your Dynasty Owner starting lineup and who you should have had on the bench, and see what happened in the matchup of the week. Thanks a lot for watching. Please smash the like button. We appreciate it. Go back and watch some of the Dynasty Owner live streams from this week. They were very good. Tim and I had a great one on Wednesday, and Tim and Seth had another great one on Thursday. And thanks for supporting Dynasty Owner. We appreciate it. And have a great day. Good luck in your matchup this week. Thanks. Bye.